Got myself a relatively small haul from my local Free Geek a few days ago. Three 360s for free because we got a pest control coming in. We have to, or had to get rid of all the consoles we've accumulated over the years. And I managed to save at least 3 of them. I had to go to a game exchange to get a power supply for at least 2 of them because the black one here is a newer revision that requires a different power supply. So I know these two work. And I do know this one, as last I remember, also works, but it's been a year since I touched these. I turned both of these on, so I know they do work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to more or less take these two parts, clean them out, and see what's on the inside. And possibly do the same to this one right here, but since I don't have a proper power supply for it yet, I kind of just want to leave it as is for the time being. But the big thing for me, even though I got these 3 consoles here, is this Epson printer. This is still being sold today for $350. I got this for $5. I don't know the exact reason why it was brought in, but it was brought in more than likely because the Wi-Fi card in this thing is completely busted. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's say I want to connect this thing to my home network. I get to this little error right here. Basically, something about the Wi-Fi card is completely corrupt. So I can't use this thing wirelessly, but I can still use it hardwired, and that's why I have my HP printer right here hooked up to it, because I've been wanting a really nice Epson Eco Tank for a very long time, and I finally managed to grab one. So even though the 360s here are probably the majority of the video, or are the majority of the video, personally for me, the Epson printer is a big win for me, because again, this thing still sells for $750 new, and I got it for $5. Another issue with this printer was, originally it was only printing in black. It was printing a little bit of red and a slight bit of yellow. And I was like, okay, there's possibly a way to fix it. Turns out there's another option in the settings called a power clean. But I couldn't do that or a Free Geek because I had to have a computer hooked up to it. So I brought it home, did the power clean, and this printer's been printing completely fine ever since. And I also got myself a new bottle of black here because the black was pretty much dead by the time I got done doing the cleaning and whatnot. But again, for $5, I got myself a very nice printer. So with that said, let's actually get this video underway when it comes to the consoles here. Alright, pulled the face plates off. So the ugly one right here has clearly been opened up. This one theoretically has not. I'm in a group on Facebook that's dedicated itself to modifying these things, and some people are saying that this could either be either someone could have used a hair dryer, pulled it off, and then put it back on when they're done opening it up, or this thing was like left in the heat in like a very hot car, and that's why you have this right here. So it's possible that this one has never been opened up. I'd like that to be the case, but I don't know yet. Also, the black one here has also been opened up. But again, as far as I know, as far as I know, these two work because I did fire them up. And this one right here, again, theoretically should work, but again, I don't have a proper power supply for it. I can get one off eBay for like $25, but for the time being, I'm gonna be working with these two. And let's start off with the nasty one, because this is the one I'm actually interested in, and the one that actually needs the most cleaning, because I'm very certain the inside is fairly nasty, especially going by the back of the cooling fans, which you really can't see, but this thing is in desperate need of a cleaning. And as far as I know, this is probably a game exchange sticker, so I doubt this thing has been X-clamp modded, but we'll see. So with that said, I'll figure out how to pull this thing apart by watching a tutorial, and I'll come back when I get to the board and whatnot. The plastic on this one is incredibly brittle, so I do not see the shell going back into place. So if I can somehow clean this thing up and make it actually work again properly, because the one issue I have experienced on all 3, or on 2, this one and the black one, is this tray doesn't want to open up. If I can probably fix that and find a shell replacement, I can at least re-shell this thing, but for the time being, I need to finish pulling this thing apart. And is there screws missing? Yeah, this thing may have been X-Clamp modded. Poor console. The inside is somewhat dusty, but not as bad as I initially thought. Also, I don't see any actual mod chips unless they would be underneath the drive and whatnot. But I doubt that would be the case because more than likely it'll probably be like right here or maybe right in here. So I'm gonna pull what I need to pull out, and then I'm gonna take this thing out back and de-dust it. Yeah, you can kind of see why I wanted to take the thing apart. The back fans here are pretty nasty. With that said, as expected, there is absolutely no mod chips on this console. I did encounter one over at my local Free Geek, but that was because it was broken. And so I doubt I'll actually encounter a mod chip on any of these consoles, but they desperately need to be cleaned. Now this one though is going to be interesting because it's been X-Clamp modded, and I don't know how to properly go about tightening everything down on this thing. I mean, it can't be that difficult, but I did kind of expect to at least encounter at least one X-Clamp modded system. So now I'm going to clean this thing out, and I'm going to have my little whatever you call these things, monitoring whatever I do. The term I was trying to come up with was supervisors. They're very, very annoying, but they supervise everything I do out here and get in the way constantly, especially this little one right here. They have a bad habit of messing up the window and getting in the way whenever I try to close the door, and sometimes they get hit by the door. But what are you going to do when you have cute little supervisors like these? Just gotta watch out what you're doing. Did I accidentally hit this one in the door? No, I did not. So with that said, I'm going to now do the same thing to the other consoles. I'll pull the actual motherboards out of them when I actually pull the rest of them apart, because I am interested in seeing what the black one looks like on the inside. And I'm going to say the supposed unopened one for last. I think it should be obvious that I am planning on reapplying thermal paste on all these consoles, but I want to do that again, like I said, after I pull them all apart. The one thing I'm hoping for is that this black one will be real easy to take apart, especially considering the bottom plate right there already has a clip broken off. So hopefully the plastics on this one aren't as brittle. I can already tell they're not, but I gotta figure out a more proper way how to pull the back piece off, because again, I was pressing in, well, I'm going to say the reason why they all broke is because it's just brittle plastic. And I really don't want that to happen to this one right here, because I kind of want to keep this one as pristine as possible. So I'm going to take this one apart off camera like I did with the other one and come back when I get to the motherboard. Alright, I'm not exactly at the motherboard yet, but this one has not been X-clamped or X-clamp modded, so this one's a tad bit more stock, at least in the initial, than the one I took apart previously. Alright, got this one taken apart, and that's a nice little bit of caked on dust right there. This one absolutely needs to be cleaned. Surprisingly enough, the one that was more nastier, again the ugly nasty white one, is actually far more clean than this one right here is. So up to the back again to clean this thing out, and I'll come back. Alright, got a little bit of damage to the sticker here, but that's my doing to see if this is actually still stuck on properly, and it is. One thing I do want to note is that the actual pins, or whatever you call these things in the back, were very hard to pull off, and I did manage to chip some of the plastic, which does suck because I wanted to try and keep this thing as mint as possible, but obviously that ain't going to happen when I'm taking this thing apart, especially considering how old the plastic is. Which honestly, it's about like, what, 20 something odd years. I'm guessing that's about the time when these plastics start becoming brittle. But that's going to suck when these things actually get to the age where the plastics are legitimately brittle. Because these things are going to just fall apart, or at least the shells are going to fall apart, and that's going to suck. Yeah, I think it's safe to say this one has never ever been opened. Even the little metal strip here is basically still intact. Unless this thing's been properly re-put back together, but considering how the sticker just ripped right off, I think this thing has never been opened up, which I am very happy with. Which means I'm the first one in this console, which means it's not going to have any weird GameStop modifications or anything like that. So now I'm going to pull this thing apart, do the cleaning and whatnot off outside, and come back. Well, obviously I'll come back if there's a amount of dust in this thing, but yeah. Surprisingly enough, there's very little dust in this thing. I mean, you can see some right here, but this thing's relatively spotless in comparison to the other two I just took apart. So just like before, I'm going to go outside, clean out whatever dust is in this thing, which ain't much, and then I'll come back. Alright, I got the clean white 360 all pulled apart. I got the X clamps off. They're actually fairly easy. I just use this little flathead right here. But surprisingly enough, removing these seems to be a little more difficult than I initially anticipated. Nope, there we go. Well, thermal paste has definitely never been touched on this. Alright. Now I gotta go through the process of cleaning this thing out, or cleaning off all the thermal paste and put new stuff on, so when I get it cleaned off, I'll come back. Alright, cleaned off both heat sinks to the best of my ability. Cleaned off both dies to the best of my ability. Obviously, there's still quite a bit of that crap on there, but it really shouldn't impede the actual reapplying of the thermal paste and whatnot. I did do a little bit of a scratch right there. I don't think it killed the board, but you never know. But if this thing red rings, it's probably because of this. With that said, I've done worse on a PS3, and it still booted up completely fine. So that's why I'm not too concerned, but I did want to point that out just in case this thing decides to go bork. But with that said, I'm going to try and clean up a little bit more of the freaking concrete they used. And then I'm going to use this right here for new thermal paste, which is complete overkill for a 360, but it's what I have on hand. Alright guys, set up enough to where I can test it. Now to plug it in and see if it does anything. Let's see. Okay, so far so good. Well, it hasn't red ringed, so that's good. It clearly doesn't like what it's doing, so I need to figure out what's going on. Go figure, it needs a display hooked up to it to properly initialize. It works completely fine. And I kind of had a feeling that was the case. I've encountered things like this before with computers and whatnot in the past, where something stupid, like a display not being attached to it, a fan not being attached to the motherboard, would cause the system to just refuse to do anything. But even though there's a scratch on one of the dies, it boots up completely fine. So with that said, now I gotta go through the process of putting it back together. So I'm going to do all that off camera and come back. Alright, it's back together. Obviously we don't hear anything because my monitor doesn't have any speakers on it, but well, almost everything was working. Looks like the disc tray on this one you saw started acting up now too. Great. Because the disc tray was working on this thing recently before I popped it apart, but what you gonna do? Alright, it's almost midnight. I'm about to go to bed, but I want to kind of explain what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to, tomorrow, take this one apart completely, pull the motherboard out, clean off the thermal paste and whatnot, do proper maintenance on this. And the nasty white one here, it still works too, and I'm going to do the same thing also. But I'm just going to set it up to where it's as it is right now, because I'm going to use this one as the guinea pig to see if I can actually properly jailbreak or modify whatever we call it for a 360, because I do want to do that for my one, for the white one, and for this one too. But I don't want to risk neither of these two consoles, because these two consoles are perfectly fine, and I'd rather risk this one because, well, I already broke the clips on the cover and whatnot, and generally speaking, this one's kind of in a ugly state compared again to the black one here and the white one in my room. Forgive the noise in the background, my AC unit is currently on. When it comes to how I have everything currently set up or how I'm planning it, here is my main rig hooked up to a 1440p monitor. My secondary rig right here is hooked up to a 1080p monitor. My idea going forward is to connect my Xbox 360 and my PS3 right there to this monitor right here, because it has 3 ports in total, 1 DVI, 2 HDMIs. That'll be perfect for this. And my main computer is going to be, of course, hooked up to this guy right here, which is a 1440p monitor, like I mentioned. And I'm also going to hook up my Xbox Series S, because even though I have a very powerful gaming rig, from time to time, the people I play Sea of Thieves with will want to have a Xbox only session, and that's just due to the amount of blatant cheaters in this game. So I'm going to be able to have my Series X hooked up to this monitor right here, and of course these guys right here hooked up to this. And I think I mentioned it before that I do have a Series S or a Xbox 360 Slim. This one right here. The reason why I'm not using this one is because this one has some GPU issues. I think the GPU on this guy is on the way out. What happens, like if I want to play Minecraft on this thing for a little bit, it'll freeze up like 3 times, and then after that it'll run completely fine. Basically, I'll have to restart the system like 3 times, and it'll start working. It's a little annoying, and personally, if I can get everything up and running with a fat Xbox 360, then so be it. One thing I may try and do after I manage to modify, jailbreak, hack, or whatever you call it with 360, is I want to see if I can put some Noctua fans in the back. I did see a few posts talking about that, but nothing concrete. So, possible fan mod down the road? Unlikely, but we'll just have to see what happens. Alright, got the black Xbox all put back together, reapplied thermal paste and whatnot. It took a while to remove that freaking concrete like it did on the first one. So with that said, now for the dirty white Xbox One, and I want to see how the X-clamp on this one, or the X-clamp mod on this one turned out. I think I know how it works, but I'm going to pop it apart and we're going to see what it looks like. Yep, that's a bolt mod if I ever seen it. This poor console. I'll be surprised if this one hasn't red ringed already. Again, if my memory serves, this one does turn on, but I doubt it will after I get done with this, because if it's been bolt modded, Lord only knows how much force has been put onto the 2 dies, and who knows, just removing the bolts will actually break some connection. Wouldn't surprise me, but you never know. This poor 360. There's even washers on the heat sinks right there and right there. Now if I flip the board over, the dies look relatively fine. Some bent capacitors, but that's nothing out of the ordinary. So I'm going to now clean this thing up and see if I can reattach the bolt mod and whatnot, because I've never encountered something like that before. One thing I do want to note is the screws for these things weren't screwed in all the way. So I have no idea how this thing didn't cook itself when I was testing this thing over at my local Free Geek and whatnot. But yeah. So I'm gonna clean this up. Well, we all know GameStop is atrocious. They even used a garbage thermal paste. It wasn't the concrete that Microsoft was using, but it was still a massive pain in the butt to remove. And that's excluding the heat sinks that I still have to work on. That's going to take a while in its own right. Though in this particular instance, I'm just going to pull out a little bit of WD-40. A little bit of WD-40 should easily clean off this atrocious thermal paste. And once I clean it off with the WD-40, I go a few rounds of isopropyl right here, and that basically cleans everything up and makes it act like nothing happened. So I'm going to do all that off camera and come back. Alright, now to see if I killed this thing. Well, it's currently booting up like nothing happened. I guess now what I need to do is I just need to let this sit for a bit and see if it red rings. I doubt it will, but you never know. Well, at least it reads discs, even though the tray is a massive pain in the butt to get to eject and whatnot. I mean, that's basically all these 360s. But at least the tray itself works whenever you manage to open it up. Unfortunately, this is only disc 2 and I need disc 1. But again, at least it reads discs. Alright, decided to put it back together completely. And all I'm going to do then is going to let this sit on the dashboard. And we're going to see if it red rings or not. So I'm going to go and cut my neighbor's lawn. That's going to take about an hour or so. And I'll come back when that is done and we'll see if this thing is red ringed or not. Alright, done mowing the lawn and the thing has not red ringed yet. So at the very least it's stable. Now let's see how much heat's going out the back. Not much. I mean, it's idling at the dashboard, but it seems to be working completely fine. Now I actually have a physical copy of Minecraft. I'm going to find that and use that. Because at the very least I'll have something to test this thing with. I like to use GTA 5 or Halo 4, but I don't have a disc for it. Did I say GTA 4? I meant GTA 5. I do have a disc for GTA 5 like I showed before, but it's only disc 2. I need disc 1 to actually get everything to work right, so yeah. Possibly I didn't have the power cable all the way plugged in because they didn't click fully. It clicked again, or of course now it's working. I'm guessing maybe I didn't have the power cable fully seated in, but it's working, so I might as well update the thing and sign in and try and install Minecraft on it. Turns out I have Midnight Club LA Remix under my downloads list, so I'm actually going to download that. One thing for certain though, trying to sign into this 360 here was literally pulling teeth. I'll give Sony one thing, when it comes to signing into my PS3s, it's real easy. They just send me off a little email saying, hey, you're trying to sign into a PS3, use this password. When with a 360, I have to jump through literal hoops on their own website and whatnot just to generate a password so I can actually log into this accursed thing. Though hopefully this time around I'll be able to use that same password on all my other consoles and whatnot. And surprisingly enough, I got messages from an Xbox Series whatever my friend is using is still fully registered on a 360. That's actually quite impressive. That little bong you just heard was a message coming through on here and then coming through on my computer. Alright, I've had it on for a while now and I decided to re-download Minecraft. Mainly just because it'll be the easiest one I can idle at. And yes, I know Minecraft's not that graphically demanding. For proper testing, I want to use GTA 5. But again, I only have disc number 2 when I need disc number 1 and 2. So either I'll just buy the GTA 5 from Amazon, or I'll just go to my local Free Geek later next week and possibly just buy it there because it'll probably be like $5-6. For the time being, I think that's pretty much it for the video because I really can't do anything else. I do want to jailbreak these systems, but I'm not going to do that yet because I still need to properly research this and I need to get all the actual stuff necessary to do it. And if I do it, I'm going to be using this one first because this one's all ugly, beaten up, and been bolt modded. And since it's already been completely molested in that sense, might as well use this as a guinea pig. That way, so once I know what I'm doing, I can take what I learned on this one and do it to the nice white 360 I own and a nice black 360 I own. Though the black 360 is a completely different motherboard, so I gotta figure out how to do the jailbreak on that one too. But luckily, the ugly white and the nice white are the exact same motherboard type. So I can take what I learned off this and replicate it on the nice white one. And again, like I said, when it comes to the black one, I'll have to research how to do that one. But again, that's pretty much it for the video. I'm just going to let Minecraft sit for a while and see if this thing red rings on me or not. more than likely what's going to happen is that when I turn this thing off and turn it back on later, whenever I wake up the next day, it might actually red ring on me, which wouldn't surprise me, but you never know.